Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Big Bill coming to you live from Model Railroading Live, the number one model railroading show in the world. Today is Wednesday, the 16th of December. We're about 9 days away, I believe, from Christmas. I'm correct. If anybody's good at math, let me know, okay? Because I'm terrible at math. We have some special guests with us tonight. But before we get to them, I need to do my homework here. My shout outs to what we do here on Model Railroading Live. Model Railroading Live, the shows, every show that we do comes on at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will be back tomorrow night, Thursday, the 17th of December, with Johnny's Train Talk Show. That's where I say this every time we're on, so it becomes old hat. But just so you guys are up to speed on this, you guys can join in like we have right here with our two guests right now. You can be part of the Johnny's Train Talk Show if you have a webcam and a good internet. You can join on. The link is at the Johnny's Train Talk show on MRL. You can join anytime. And if you have anything you want to bring and brag, basically, or you want to talk about something related to model railroading, by all means, please join us on Johnny's Train Talk Show tomorrow, Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can mosey on down to Johnny's Train Shop there and pull up a chair, pull a soda out of the ice box, and talk model railroad. And if you don't want to join in on the what do you call it, on the video, you can do. We have a Q&A that's attached to it as well. So the hits just keep coming on, and we just keep doing it. And then on Saturday, the 20th of December, we're coming back with the Railroad Empires, How We Build Them. That's Robert Holloman, Tim Wayman, Andy Crawford, Ralph Renzetti. They come up with these great ideas, and Railroad Empire. And then last time was on switches, hand-laid switches, commercial switches, and stuff like that, and anything related. I don't know what the show is this week, but that's even more the incentive to tune in. And just a heads up to this week with this show tonight, who's Big Bill talking to? Johnny's Train Talk Show tomorrow. See, RJ, how I just went see how I did that? I went right? So we're going to edit that out later. Johnny's Train Talk Show, Railroad Empires. This will be the last three shows for December. And then Model Railroading is taking a little bit of a hiatus because Christmas holidays coming up, and we're all taking a break. And we'll be back in January with some new shows, new content for you guys. And we just wanted to let you know that's what's going on. So without further ado, I ran across these two gentlemen. First, let me introduce them. This is Sam Jennings of Sam's Old Gauge Trains, and RJ. Say the last name because
Icandello.
Icandello. There you go. Icandello. How could I forget that name? Icandello. RJ, these two young guys are college students, and they've Sam's Old Gauge and RJ Trains. That's the name of their YouTube channels. These guys are primarily in O Gauge. Am I correct? First and foremost, welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
I know
this tonight.
Well, hey, it's our pleasure. I'd love to have we love to have the youth on and see what's going on, because this hobby is riddled with naysayers that are out there, and doomsday sayers and pessimists, and say that the hobby is dying, the youth is not involved, there's no young people. And here we have two young people. Can you believe this? Sam, how old are you?
18.
And
actually just turned 19. Sorry. Just turned 19.
There you go. And RJ,
man, I don't even know my own age.
There you go. RJ, how old are you?
I'm 20.
There you go. Look at this. Look at this. Now, who came up with the idea? Who's genesis? The idea, the beginning of this. How did this come about? Do you guys have a podcast, and you also do a video blog on your channel? Correct?
Yeah, so I have a personal YouTube channel. It's Sam's Old Gauge Trains. I originally started the channel to just kind of look back on my layout and my memories when I'm older. and it quickly turned into something more than that. I realized a lot of people really enjoy the content that I was putting out, and I found that I do enjoy filming videos about my trains and informing people on them. So I continued to do so. And so I kind of had this idea during quarantine, you know, just trying to find different ways to share the hobby. So I decided to start a podcast. Now, at the time, I didn't know a lot of people did live streams and live shows like this on YouTube, but I wanted to have a way to provide people who like trains, provide content for them, and they can listen to like a show like this, but on their own time. So it is a podcast, and so it is available on YouTube. It is called the Model Train Talk Podcast, and so we just kind of go around interviewing different people and just talking trains. One of the objectives of this podcast is to kind of get an archival history of our hobby in some way. And the other way is just to share and promote our hobby in general. So me and RJ have picked up on the Model Train Talk podcast show. We've been doing a couple shows here and there. We try to do during the summer, we did one, I think, every week or 2 weeks. But with college and stuff like that, it is hard to do that. So we're just trying to do the best we can. But basically, with the podcast, we're just promoting our hobby and keeping a archival history of our hobby and just sharing the stories of others in doing so. We have the podcast on Spotify and YouTube. So yeah, hoping to expand and grow that podcast in the future. But yeah.
So when you started, Sam, you started out as this was a single thing that you did. And RJ, how did you come to get melded into the fabric of this?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You were frozen. Yeah, we lost. And we're having a little difficulty because right now up here in the Northeast where I live in Staten Island, New York, we are being pounded by a snowstorm, which the likes of everybody's out by. I bought stock in bread and milk today, earlier this morning on my penny stock thing. So I'm shooting right up to the thing. Eric Hall, imrr.com says, I'm so old, I do not know how old I am. Somewhere past the 50s marks, but I've had longer to forget how old I am. I understand. RJ's trained. Sorry, technical difficulty trying to join back in, he says. That's all right. Take your time. So Ralph Renzetti, you're not old. Ralph Renzetti, the Mudfather, is extremely old. Anyway, so Sam, so you're primarily O gauge?
Yes, I am O gauge. I would be very interested in kind of exploring the other scales because I wasn't exposed to those as a kid. I was exposed to O gauge. So yeah, I grew up with O gauge, starting, just putting a loop track around the Christmas tree. These were my grandfather's engines. And I got my first train set, I would say, probably about 11 or 12 years old. It was a Lionel Hogwarts Express set.
And then what was that again? I'm sorry.
Lionel Hogwarts Express set. So viewers,
just so all of us over 60, what is a Hogwarts set? Hogwarts.
Okay, so Hogwarts is if any of the viewers have seen the Harry Potter series. That is, Hogwarts is like the school, and so they take a train to go to the school. So That's where that comes in. Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you.
No, you're not confusing me. I'm just old.
Yeah,
I'm just old.
Oh, you're young.
Here's everybody, big round of applause. RJ's back in town.
I'm sorry. Computer crash.
No.
That's all right.
Quite all right. So go ahead. You explaining, Sam, about your Hogwarts set.
Yeah, so I got exposed to O gauge as a kid, ran my grandfather's trains under the Christmas tree, got my first set when I was about 12 years old, and then from there it just stuck. I mean, I started out with the Thomas Wooden Railway even before all that. So yeah, it's just kind of always stuck with me. And so I'm glad I'm able to share my passion with trains for other people, especially on your show tonight. So yeah,
it's great.
good stuff.
So RJ, before we were rudely interrupted there by the goblins and the gremlins of the
gremlin.
technology, the gremlins of technology. How did you get involved with working with Sam on the? I mean, obviously, it was his, show, and how did you guys hook up?
So I have my own channel as well, RJ's Trains, and like Sam, I'm primarily O scale, but I'm also looking to maybe do some N scale in the near future. Still working that stuff out, maybe HO scale. But
Okay.
so I made an Instagram page to promote my YouTube channel, and one of the O scale manufacturers, Lionel, they make these presidential boxcars, and basically they're just red, white, and blue boxcars with a presidential face on them. And I'm collecting them, and Sam's probably the only other person our age who collects these boxcars.
Right.
And there was a hobby store that was doing a huge sale on them. They had them for like 90% off. So I bought mine first, and then I sent Sam the link, and then it turned out I bought the last one, so I felt guilty. But we started a great friendship. He invited me onto the very first podcast, and then the podcast, as I'm sure he explained, it was all his idea originally. He does 95% of the work when it comes to the podcast. But a few episodes in, he invited me on to join him as a co-host, just to help the conversation flowing. And plus, one of us has to be the pretty face on the podcast, so I put the bullet on that one.
John, hold on, guys. John, are you listening? John, producer / director, are you listening? Hear that? The pretty face. Thank you, RJ. I appreciate that. Yes, I understand completely. For those guys that are tuning in a little bit late, we're sitting here talking to RJ and Sam of Sam's Old Gauge Trains and RJ's. They both have they partner up and they do a podcast as well as a video blog on O Gauge Trains, Lionel, and stuff like that. And both college students. Sam's 19, RJ is 20, and they're both into model railroading, and they're both into it in a very, very big way. Who would know? But this is the answer to there's no youth in the hobby, and these guys seem pretty passionate about it. So now, RJ, do you have an O scale layout in your house?
Yes. So I actually have a 12x8 O scale layout. 2 main lines. Unlike you guys in HO scale and N scale, who I'm very jealous of, 12x8 isn't that big when it comes to O scale. So I've got 2 main lines, a little switching yard, and a small town area. And personally, I love it. This is the 3rd layout I'm really on right now. And it's partly based off of the southern United States, around like the East Tennessee, and my home, Long Island, New York, which is quite the combination. But I make the two work because I enjoy running Long Island railroads and southern railroads. But that's what in O scale we're not, as some people like to call us. We're not serious modelers, and I take no offense to that. I know Sam doesn't take any offense to that. We run our trains on 3 rails, so I can't complain at anybody who's going to say we're. But
I don't. Yeah, I don't understand that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I model what I enjoy. I model what I enjoy, the world around me, and incorporate other things into it.
That's exactly right. I hear you loud and clear. I do. And I don't know who says that. I mean, I think it's a given both ways. I've had my run-in with O scale guys who don't want to, for whatever reason, don't want.
There's 95% of the hobby. We all get along. We're all in the same hobby. We all want to see the hobby succeed, no matter what scale we're in. And then there's just that 5%, which is just an anchor tied to you.
Yeah, curmudgeons they are. That's what they are. So, Sam, now do you have a layout?
I do. I do have a 4x8 layout in my room at home. I'm actually at my college dorm right now, but I wish I could fit a 4x8 layout in here, but I don't think my roommate would be too happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I do have a 4x8 layout at home. If you guys are familiar with the post-war Lionel, that's mainly what I run is post-war and NPC era engines. Mainly just, again, that's what I was exposed to as a kid. And I have fun watching two trains go in circles for hours on end. My layout has two loops of track. The outer loop is 036. The inner loop is 027. I have a little siding that has the Lionel icing station. And I also have the original post-war milk car station, if any of you guys are familiar with that. That's probably my favorite accessory ever. It's so fun. I just put the car on the track and I just hit the button multiple times and reload. It's fun to play with. And then I modeled my layout based on the Black Hills of South Dakota. And mainly it's just because we had a family vacation up there and it was very interesting, to say the least. So yeah, and then on top of the mountain, I have like a little small town USA type thing going on. But yeah, it's turned out better than I thought it would be. But yeah, it's good. I'm excited to do the next layout in the future. But yeah.
Yeah. RJ, how did you get started in model railroading?
RJ, you're muted.
You're muted.
Knew that was going to happen at least once tonight. So I had older cousins who enjoyed Thomas the Tank Engine. So all of those toys were hand-me-downs to me. And so I just never grew out of trains. I got a I Love Toy Trains VHS tape when I was young. And for those of you who don't know about that series, it was basically this guy would just go around and film huge Lionel O-scale layouts. And the one set that always caught my eye was the Lionel post-war Santa Fe F3 set with, aluminum shiny baggage, passenger cars. And, one year for Christmas, I asked Santa to bring me a O-scale Santa Fe passenger set, and it was underneath the tree that year. And that was Christmas, kindergarten, or first grade. And here I am 15 years later, and I'm still in this hobby.
Frank DeLauro, affectionately known around some circles as Frankie Rice Bowl. G-Scale rules, trains run outside. And Ralph Rendetti asks, Frank, what do you do in the snow? He's still yet to answer. So we have Brad Anderson, model railroading from down under. Good day, all. He's from an Australian. He's an Australian watching. So we are aware of one thing. If he's watching from Australia, the world is not ending today because it's already tomorrow in Australia. So we're good to go. So so you guys have been, that's how you got your start, basically. You asked, you saw things when you were a kid, you were introduced to it, and you were brought into it. Now here you are, two college students. What keeps your interest in model railroading? Because some guys your age, I used to coach high school baseball, and we used to get guys that come in, they'd be 460 hitters, then they'd get the girlfriend, and their batting average dropped to $125, and then we never saw them again. So you guys got college lives, and I'm sure you definitely have a social life as well. So what keeps you interested in the hobby? What keeps you motivated to stay in?
I know for me personally, I here at my college, I am an athlete. I'm a student athlete here. So I do swimming. I put in 20 hours a week. I do have a social life, believe it or not. But the trains for me are a break from swimming and my social life, if that makes any sense. So whatever time that I have, I go to my layout. I either watch the trains run, take one apart and clean it, learn how to fix them and whatnot. It's just a way for me to de-stress from everything else in my life. Usually swimming does that, but sometimes you need a break from swimming and your social life. So yeah, that's what it keeps it in for me. And I think it'll always be a part of my life one way or another, because I've already invested too much now. It's with me forever.
Right. Najee?
So for me, there was certainly a time where I thought I grew out of model trains. When I was in middle school, that's when I first started my YouTube channel. And I was bullied for, having a YouTube channel to do with trains, and that's a kid thing and whatever. And so I didn't leave the hobby. I still ran my trains, and then in high school I was a varsity athlete. I got to school at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't leave school until after 5 o'clock. So there was a time when I would probably only run the trains, 1 or 2 times a year. But then kind of, beginning of college, at school, I was homesick, and I thought, what's one thing that really gets me excited, reminds me of home, and it was the model trains. And my freshman year, I actually bought a whole bunch of HO scale trains, and I had a little loop of Bachmann Easy Track in my dorm room running the trains.
Very good. Very good.
We recently remodeled my basement, and I had to take down the old layout, and it was a perfect time to, get reinvested in the hobby and build a whole new layout. And like certain other events, like the unfortunate passing of President H.W. Bush, I attended his funeral down in Washington, D.C., and when MTH came out with their model of the 4141, I knew I had to have it. And this was really like the first major model that I've picked up in a long time. And since then, like all things in this hobby, it was just downhill from there, and I haven't stopped purchasing it.
Right. You're coming in a little staticky. Now you're frozen. Should I refresh?
No, it's me. I'm down in my basement, so I have poor connection.
Oh, okay.
I'll refresh again and join back in.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to unlock it. Yeah, I got it. Connection interrupted. Hold on, gentlemen.
No worries. No worries.
Here we go. Now we're right. I refreshed, and now we're hopefully coming back.
Do I need to refresh as well? Will that help?
No. You're good.
No.
You're good. Your college Wi-Fi is working up to speed.
Well, no one's really here right now, just the athletes. So
yeah, that's why nobody's clamoring to be on.
The dorm is very quiet, but yeah.
Landsberg and Great Western Railroad. Hello. Long time no see. Marty's Train Shed is in the house. Good day to you all. Good day to you. Dwight at Northern Star says, my grandkids couldn't come this year to help me run trains, but they do have one running around the tree.
That works. That works.
It always works. Big red line. Okay, waiting. But so now, Sam, again, you started out, with the Thomas the Train wooden set and Hot Wogs, Harry Potter's train set, and you moved up and did the whole thing. And now that you're in college, how are the peers, you guys that you do know that you share with? Is it something that is something that accepted, ridiculed, made fun? I mean, we're hoping that they're college guys, so they're a little bit more. Here he is. Did you change your shirt?
I took off my sweatshirt.
There we go. I thought maybe we were having a little bit of a.
All right. I'm leaving the door open now, so hopefully the don't come back.
The gamma rays will go through.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Could you hold up that diesel engine, the 4141, because we didn't get to see it? Yeah, there you go. That's a beautiful engine.
And so another thing that I really love about O-Scale is the sounds that are in this thing. And so I have a couple of videos about it up on my channel, but they actually have the recording of George giving the eulogy at
His father's funeral?
HW's funeral.
Right.
Yeah, playing through the train.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is a really cool touch. You can if you go back on George H.W. Bush laying in state in the Capitol Rotunda, because I go to school in D.C., I got the opportunity to go and see him lay in state.
Right.
And so if you go through the live stream, you can see me there on camera.
Okay.
So I also picked up the UP baggage car with the casket inside, which so I've got my own little HW funeral train.
Cool.
And
Good.
now it's just one purchase after another.
Well, there you go. Once it starts,
It opened up the
that's
floodgates.
it. Frank DeLauro says, hey, got to put you on pause, Big Bill, lighting Olivia's candles on her cheesecake. Well, happy birthday to Olivia DeLauro. She turns 20 today. She turns 20 today, and she recently bought her own car out of her own money that she earned, and she's going to college as well. So congratulations, Olivia DeLauro. 20 years old. God bless you. Have a great birthday, and save a piece of cheesecake. Go ahead.
I'm too busy buying trains to buy a car.
Well, somebody's priorities are definitely in order, and yours are.
I'm in a city. I don't need I'm in a city at school. I don't need a car.
Yeah, you don't need a city. You know, you can get around. It's easy traveling around DC and stuff. So I was asking Sam, and you guys can. I'll re-ask the question because I asked Sam. Being in college, you said earlier that when you were in middle school you were bullied, RJ, and now in high school it was a little different story. How is it in college? Do people, guys, or other people know that you're into model railroading, and how is it accepted, or is it like, oh, that's just for old men and stuff like that?
I mean, for me, like, I literally just dropped the link for this live stream in one of our group chats. They're pretty accepting of it, and I greatly appreciate that from them. I think once they realize what goes into it, I think they think it's pretty cool. So yeah, for me, it's been pretty good, and I'm grateful for that.
Great. RJ, how about you?
So for me at college, I've actually met a bunch of guys who are into railroading and modeling in general. And so it's cool, even during this, pandemic, that I'm still able to go and meet and hang out with these guys who enjoy railroading as much as I do. And those same kids who bullied me back in middle school, I've had a couple of them reach out to me in the past couple of months. And they said, I stumbled across the Instagram and YouTube page, and that's actually pretty cool. And then my girlfriend too, she's very accepting of it, which I'm thankful for. She bought me something. She bought me a train for Christmas, so she's fueling the addiction.
There you go.
Yeah. I take her to the hobby stores. I get dragged to makeup shops. 2 ways.
I guess it works. It does. It does. So how do you guys feel about this? The bell tolling of there's no youth in the hobby. No youth. It's dying. Do you think there's any validity to that statement? Obviously, it's not. You two guys are in it. We had the Gandhi guys on. They were not youth in the year, but they were young guys in their 30s and stuff. We had the Gandhi brothers on. Here you guys are. So, what do you think?
I don't think.
Obviously, there aren't as many youth in the hobby as there are. Oh, sorry, Sam.
No, you're good. Go ahead. No, go ahead, RJ. You got this one. There's certainly less youth in the hobby than there are older people out there. The thing is that the way how younger people express and show off their interest in trains is a lot different how older people do that. So in the O-scale world, there's a big forum, it's OGR forum. And long story short, it's mainly older gentlemen on that forum. And they sit there and they type away and they complain how there's no youth in the hobby. But if you go on Instagram,
there are thousands of people our age who are into model railroading in all scales and forms. And, there are a lot of people our age who have YouTube channels. They may not be as popular as Samurais or, some of those bigger names out there in the model railroading world. But there are a lot of young people out there trying to produce model train content and showing off their collections. And in the O-scale world, I can't speak for any other scales because 99.9% of my focus is in O-scale. But a lot of these older gentlemen on the forum, every time a younger guy goes to chime in, they immediately get put down. They get told that, you're doing it the wrong way. The Pennsylvania Railroad didn't hold that consist back in the. And it's happened to me before on multiple occasions on said forum and other mediums of showing off my trains. And, if you want to help bring the youth into the hobby, which they talk about all the time, maybe you should, be accepting that they're fine with running a, 50-foot boxcar behind a, something that's not prototypical. But the youth is out there. There just needs to be more cooperation between the older and the younger. And certainly that Sam and I is something that we've been trying to work on. And I think more people have gotten into YouTube, more older people have gotten into YouTube during this pandemic because, they don't have anything else to do. So they go and watch model train videos. And I think it's certainly helped a lot, and I've seen it. But there's that disconnect between the younger and the older. And I think that hurts the hobby more than not having enough young people in the hobby.
RJ, what is your thinking on it?
I'll go ahead and give my thinking on it. One of the reasons why I started the podcast was to promote the hobby. I was a young guy going into it, and I wanted to be able to reach the older audience as well as the newer audience. So the podcast, the Model Train Talk podcast, I put on YouTube because I feel like a lot of people are familiar with YouTube. But I know a lot of the youth is kind of into these newer apps such as Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Prime Video, or whatnot. There's all these different new platforms that some of you guys might not be familiar with. So what I'm trying to do with this podcast is be able to put this Model Train Talk content on multiple different platforms to reach a wider audience. I know we're on a live show right now. If anyone has any suggestions on how to better benefit you guys, the older generation, and maybe potentially figure out another way that's easier for you guys to enjoy model train content, put it in the description, because I would love for everybody to come together and talk about trains. That's the goal why I started the podcast. I pre-record them so that way you can view them at your own expense at your own time. So
Right.
That's kind of my idea. That's kind of where I'm going. So to answer your question, Bill, I do think it's out there. The youth is out there, but it's in different places. It's obviously not the height of the post-war era for Lionel, like not that popular, but I still think it'll always be around. But I think it's just in different places than it was before. We use the internet so much nowadays, and I think that's where a lot of it lies. And even off of YouTube on other platforms like RJ was talking about Instagram. I know that a lot of people are on Instagram, and there's different social media platforms as well. So where I'm trying to go with the podcast is just try to make it available in multiple different areas. So A, we can promote the hobby, B, share everyone's stories and stuff like that. So it's still in the beginning stages of the podcast, but I hope to continue the project throughout the duration that I'm in the hobby. So yeah.
Jayco Samurai says, enjoy running what you like. Don't worry about what others think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hobby's about having fun.
Yes. Yes, it is. Well, you're always going to get the naysayers, and I think that the older crowd, I think sometimes like on that forum, it might be, sometimes guys like guys our age, 65, older, we're on the other side of the sunrise, if you will. We're on the sunset side, and whereas you guys have your, you know, whole life in front of you and your modeling experience. And I always ran into that myself when I started out back in the early 80s. It was always, oh, that's not how we did it. That's not how, you should do it. That's not. And I'd be like, okay, I'm willing to learn, but don't turn the criticism into harsh criticism. Just let me know, if I'm not holding the bat correctly or if I'm not throwing the ball correctly, don't yell at me, because then
Right.
I'll walk away from what I want to love,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Dwight of Northern Star says building scale buildings and scenery is good for engineering students and architectural students as well. And Ralph Renzetti says, Sam, invite some of those old guys on your podcast to talk one-on-one. Maybe they will dispel the problem of young versus old.
Can I add a point to that comment?
Yeah, go.
Sure.
Yeah. So we have actually interviewed a couple of older people, but this has just been in the O scale. I'm kind of interested in diving into different scales and talking to those people as well. But me and RJ will brainstorm and develop over that. But we have talked to a couple people, a couple of older gentlemen who are in the collecting. They have spectacular collections, and we've done a couple episodes. One notable one is one with Stephen Cofferel. That was a great episode. It was really cool to hear his story, how he collected. It is, if anyone is interested in that episode, it is episode 2 of the Model Train Talk podcast. But RJ, do you have anything to add at that point? I know we've talked to a couple older people as well, a couple others.
No. Personally, Steve, he's turned into a really good friend of mine.
Yes.
Despite there being a 50-year age difference, he's an amazing person. It turns out that he only lives 15 minutes away from me, and over the summer I'd go over to his house almost every week, and we would talk and run trains, and he taught me a lot about the hobby, and he still teaches me stuff about the hobby, the history of the hobby, how to operate things, how to wire things, and that there are just those amazing wells of knowledge out there, and I wasn't trying to paint a broad picture of that.
No, I don't think you were, RJ.
And all of them act this way. There are a lot of really good guys out there, and like I said, there's just like that 1 to 5%, which just leave a bad taste in people's mouths.
Well, yeah, there's always that one person who's always going to do that. Like you said, 95% of people are very supportive, but that 5% is the one that, causes the water to be spoiled, and stuff like that. But there are definitely a lot of older men and, that are willing to be mentors to young guys and anything and everything, and and to show you, and that's the beauty of the hobby. Paul Lindell says, I see a big connection between model railroading and tabletop gaming. You need to expand on that, Paul. I'd like to know what the thing is. We'll wait for your reply. Yeah, we can have you on the show, Paul. I'd love to have you on the show. That's an interesting question, interesting topic and stuff. So, it's daunting sometimes. I know when I coached baseball and I coached the youth league, and I used to get the 11, 12-year-olds, and they'd move up to the big field, the 90-foot bases, big infield, high school field. And they would always be a little intimidated, and I would always get them in the outfield and say, how many of you guys have been yelled at by your little league coach? And they'd all raise their hand. And one of the things I've always done in my life and in my private life and in anything is never try to be that guy that knows everything. Because my father taught me, if you're the smartest man in the room, you're absolutely in the wrong room. So it doesn't know to know everything. It knows to help those, because it's a give and take. What this older gentleman Steve may be able to tell you may be able to tell him something electronically. I think I shared with you guys my nephew Jake. He's 14, 15 years old, and when I have problems with the Pro Cab and it's not working the way I wanted to, boom, he's like Johnny on the spot, because he knows this technology and stuff, and I don't. So it intimidates me I know how to turn a radio on. That's basically it. But that's a joke, guys. That's an old man's sense of humor. Paul Lindell says both involve creating a world in miniature that you control. Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. This is about the only thing I can control. Everything outside the purview of this room, I have no control whatsoever on it. Life just moves at a fast pace, and I'm told the lady that I live with, the lovely wife that I live with, she tells me what time to get up, what time to go to bed, and she immediately said, after this show, we're going to have tea and some cake. And I'm like, okay. So that's about as much control as I got. Steven, 87th PSAP. As of late, tabletop gaming has moved up to start including scenery. There is also painting involved. So it's two worlds, that are colliding there, and people are definitely using it. So you guys are like this O-Gauge thing. Who have you've had this gentleman on? Have you had the opportunity to have anchors cross
Yes.
cross anchor?
We've talked
Brian
to them, I
and
believe.
Mike?
Yeah, it was either our 10th or 11th episode. I think it was our 10th. But yeah, it was a
I want to say
group of guys there.
Yeah, and did you get to talk to GFW, Wally, and George?
That was, I believe, episode either 4 or 6. I think it was 6.
That's where I actually got to see you guys, because you guys were on a chat with them once. And I saw Sam O-Gauge, and then I clicked on your name and I saw your thing, and I was like, because we here at Model Railroading Live, we tend to do the HO and the N scale kind of guys, and we get into those that scale and everything. And Chinese black tea, Eric. That's what we have, Chinese black tea. He's asking, do you have Chinese black tea or hot chocolate? Not sure what I want. I think I might go with the hot chocolate because it's snowing out. But anyway, yeah. So we wanted to get into the O scale. We definitely wanted to do O scale. And it was so difficult to get guys to come on. We had Larry Ryan was our first O scale guy, and I met him up in Amherst train show up in Massachusetts a couple of years ago. He was one of the guest lecturers at Mile Hale's workshop for 2 days, and he was giving a perspective on O-scale trains and how to repair and what tools you need. So I took the class just because I wanted to see, because it's interesting and it was a little diverse. And he was our first guy to come on, but it's always been a little difficult to get O-scalers to come on because, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because they perceive that we're HO guys and N-scale guys and that we really don't. But I find this, me personally, I find the largeness of the trains to be like daunting, like, oh man. And like, it is big. It is big. You just showed that engine. But
yeah.
What is the attraction to O-scale for you guys? Sam, what is it for you?
I just think, like, for me, like, I'm a history guy. I like history. So the post-war stuff is kind of attractive to me because it has some sort of collectability and some sort of history behind it. I mean, the only way I can explain it is just I was exposed to it as a young kid. I personally, in my opinion, I think it's a good size. I mean, you have G scale too, and you have live steam as well, which is even bigger. But I just think it's like the perfect size. It kind of fits in your hand. Like I have a caboose right here. I can just hold it with my hand. It's not too big and it's not too small to where if I drop it, that's the end of its life. I mean, this caboose fell off my layout 2 or 3 times. It still works. Definitely dropped a lot in value after that point, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just think it's the perfect size. I mean, and again, I was exposed to it, as a young kid. I would definitely be interested in learning more about N and HO scale and those smaller scales. That'd be fun. But yeah, for me, that's what I was exposed to, and I just think it's a good size.
RJ?
So, like Sam mentioned, I got into O scale because that's what I was exposed to at first, and so that's what I asked for, and that's what I got. But sometimes I really do wish my parents got me into HO because I could have a heck of a lot more trains and a bigger layout if I was in HO. But I love my O scale stuff. I'm 6'2". I have large hands. They don't work well with anything smaller than O scale. I have problems with things in O scale being too small for me to handle.
Okay.
And I love the detail that you can do with O scale and the detail that's on the locomotives and on the freight cars and the whole 9 yards. But it still has that toy train play value. It's 3 rails.
Right.
You don't have to worry about it being super realistic. You have a toy train feel. And although, because the trains are bigger, more often than not, they're more expensive than a lot of their counterparts in HO or N scale. But there have been a couple of companies recently that have been producing extremely affordable stuff, and it's making the hobby it's a lot easier to expand your collection to things you want, and without having to take more out of your pocket like you used to in O scale.
We should talk about that real quick. Do you mind, Bill?
No, go ahead.
I think it's a good point to talk about, and I think it goes along with your question earlier about people entering the hobby. So there is a hardware store in the Midwest region called Menards. It's basically like your Lowe's and Home Depot. It's kind of that hardware store type thing. And so they recently started making O-scale cars, O-scale scenery products such as lighted vehicles, lighted buildings, and these are not like cheap. These are really nice buildings too. I know RJ has.
So
RJ, have you done a review on one before? Because I know I have.
Yeah, I've done a couple videos on Menards products, but basically this guy's like a multi-billionaire, and he just decided that he didn't like what was being produced in O-scale or the price, so he's just making model trains that he wants and selling them at cost or making extremely little amounts of money on them just so he can have what he wants. And I've got one car here, and it's a flat car with an ambulance on it, and this is it's made of die-cast metal. It's got a whole bunch of separately applied details to it, and it's $20.
Wow.
Which it's
I have one.
$20.
Well,
And then on top
recently
of that, you also have like Sam was talking about, lighted vehicles. So they have LED lights in them, and on their own they cost $30. But more often than not, if you buy one freight car for $20, they throw in the freight car, the lighted vehicle that costs $30 free of charge.
Really?
So you buy something for $20. You buy like Sam's freight car, something like this. They make almost any freight car that you can think of, and you buy it for $20, and you get a $30 value for free. If you watch my videos, I don't stop talking about them because I love them, and I've got two buildings that they've made in O scale. They also do HO scale buildings, but they are the most highly detailed buildings that are on the market. Most of the time, they have animation added to them, and they cost less than your other O scale pre-made buildings. And I would say they're in a relatively same range if you were to buy like a Woodland Scenics HO scale pre-built building.
If if you're in HO and you're looking for scenery stuff, I would recommend going. I'm not sure on their HO collection, but I'm sure it's growing because they just came out with a bunch of new. This tank car was just, it's brand new. I would definitely
don't
recommend
think
going. Go ahead.
I don't think they do
I think it's
HO
gross.
scale, like freight cars or any of that stuff. They do all their O scale buildings in HO scale, and they also do HO scale vehicles. I know that.
Yeah, they don't have the cars yet, but they do have the scenery products and stuff like that. Even if you just go in your search bar and type in Menards train stuff, you'll find a link and go explore and check it out for yourself, and maybe check them out and get a little something for yourself.
There you go.
Highly recommend it.
Menards, check it out.
But yeah,
boy.
that's one way that
I
definitely
am,
think that's one way the hobby's becoming more enticing to some people.
sure. I agree with you. IMRO.com. Eric Hall says, FYI, up till my late 20s, I was an O gauge collector, then decided to get into ops and operations, and N scale fit the bill. Let's see. He goes on to say, I still have all my O scale stuff. I think O scale works well for collectors. It displays well. If you do not have the room for a layout but want something to look at, that is O scale. True.
Mhm.
That's good.
That's a good point. I do have quite a bit of display stuff.
Do you think that there's a lot of discussion on collectibles and Lionel being if you have it, you got a millionaire's case if you go upstairs to your attic, and do you think that is consistent? Do you think there are products out there that post before it's like baseball cards. Once they've sold the 69 box set of Topps unopened for $1.5 million, everybody thought they had a treasure trove. And then when they glutted the market, all the, Fleer and Don Rusk and all those guys in Upper Deck, then they flooded the market with subsets, and they diluted the value of the cards. Do you think that's true with Lionel?
I mean, here's my thing on it. I mainly collect post-war items and NBC era items. So I got a comment on one of my YouTube videos a couple days ago about my turbine engine, my Penzi turbine, and they were like, I'm trying to find the value of this engine, and I can't find much on the internet. And they said that someone had offered them $1,200 US for a 1946 variant B turbine. Based on what I know about turbines and stuff like that, there's not really one singular turbine that has gone up exponentially in value, and it was way overpriced. And the thing is, unless you have something that is such a rare variant or something that you just don't see every day. I mean, they made millions of these pieces. It's just you might have had one that had a slight misproduction on it. Maybe it missed a stripe of a color, or it has one less number. Just something really wacky and random. Sometimes you'll see that on eBay, but I mean, most of them are pretty common. I mean, if you're talking about the pinnacle of Lionel, that the original Hudson that they made that just kind of shocked the world in O scale, that goes pretty high in value. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with that. And there was a Lino girl set that they created, and it wasn't very popular at all during the time, and it's now a very collectible piece. I mean, you'll get those gems occasionally, but I think a lot of the engines and stuff are overpriced. You really got to know what you have, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think too, it boils down to it's only worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it.
Right.
I mean, like you said earlier, if it's one of those pieces that were limited and made back in because you got to remember too, post-war, metal was scarce during World War II. They weren't making a lot of trains. So post-war stuff, they started turning it out because they were able to get back into the production, get America moving again, get the GIs were coming back home, and they wanted to get them into hobby and stuff like that. So they were turning out those models left and right,
Right.
and stuff. So yeah,
So on that topic of World War II, probably my most valuable train item that I have in my collection isn't really a train at all. It is during World War II, Lionel set up like a subsidiary company so they could still produce toys, because during the war, Lionel stopped producing trains in order to make parts for the Navy. But they made these cardboard trains, and you'd fold it around a milk carton, and then, so kids could still have their toy trains. And I've got one sitting new in the box without anything unfolded. And on top of it just being a cool piece of Lionel memorabilia, it's a piece of American history,
Yeah.
at a time when that's what toys were, because everything was used for the war effort.
Man, not only are you two guys good looking, but you're also smart as well. You guys got an intense knowledge of Lionel and trains and the whole package and everything. You just sometimes you get guys on here, even older guys that they know but they don't know. But you guys haven't come equipped with the knowledge of it. You guys really are passionate about what you do, and that's something we don't get to see a lot in young men today. The passion for something other than gaming, video games. And I'm not putting it down, so don't everybody start writing emails to me telling me I'm a video gamer and stuff like that. But that this is really really, really, really good to see you guys are really into this and stuff like that. So it bolsters my spirits to see that the youth is definitely involved. And I like the fact that you guys have this podcast coming across and this video blog that you guys do. Now you do the podcast on Spotify?
Yes, so the podcast is available on YouTube. If you look up the Model Train Talk podcast, you'll find the channel. You'll find all the recorded podcast sessions. But a podcast is it's an audio file that you can listen to that doesn't have any visuals. And so my idea behind this was to already have pre-recorded train content so you could view at your own time. But some people can't even, don't even have time to sit down and watch a 30 to 40-minute YouTube video talking about trains.
Sure.
So I'm sorry?
No, I'm saying sure. I am agreeing with you. They don't.
Right. So now what I've done here, I've just created another way for people to listen to model train content. So Spotify is an app that you can listen to music and listen to the podcasts. And so I have it on there. So if you're ever driving to work, or if you're doing some stuff around the house, maybe washing dishes, or, mowing the lawn, I don't know. Just put your headphones in and go on to Spotify and you can listen to this podcast. It's on there. But if you would like to also listen and watch to the original version, it is on YouTube as well. So yeah, it's available on 2 different platforms. Again, the main idea behind that is to entice both audiences, someone who has a super busy life and just is hustling all the time, and someone who likes to watch videos as well. And so I'm just trying to expand the audience, trying to just promote the hobby any way I can, getting it on multiple platforms and stuff like that. Just trying new things.
On the Spotify, how are the analytics on the Spotify? Do you get an age range of who's listening on Spotify?
I could check soon, but I know that I have about 50 people who have actually followed it and have it saved in their Spotify. And I know that I have about 600 total views or starts, which are equivalent to YouTube views. So yeah, I would say so far it's pretty good. I might be able to look it up here and get that answer back.
No, It's just interesting to see that you're doing it on a different social platform other than YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's a podcast that's out there, and and that people are willing and listening to it. Like I said, like you said, if you're busy working around the house, working on the layout, you throw it on. At least you got some accompaniment and stuff like that. Ralph Renzetti says it's refreshing to hear the Utes talk about history of the hobby. Did he just say Utes? Yeah, he did. The history of the hobby. Yeah. And he's got to go. So, boys, have a good night. Thank you, Ralph, and stuff like that. Guys, I got to thank you, very much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you guys are
Appreciate
in
it.
school and off right now, and you could be doing better things than sitting with this old fat guy talking about model railroading and stuff like that. But I have to tell you, this was been a real fun time for me. I got to say that you two guys were really, really, truly engaging and very, very super knowledgeable and very personable young men. Great personalities and exuberant attitude about the hobby coming across. You can absolutely see it and feel it, your enthusiasm and your passion for the hobby. So I want to thank you, Sam and RJ, for being a part of Who's Big Bill Talking To tonight. Sam's O-Gauge, that's his YouTube channel, and RJ's Train, that's his YouTube channel. Go check them out and subscribe to them. And give them a thumbs up, and let's get them up and over 1 million subscribers so they can, they can do this
podcast channel. That's
and
where
the podcast channel. And what's the name of the podcast channel again on Spotify?
Again, it's on Spotify and YouTube. It is called the Model Train Talk Podcast. So yeah,
Model Train Talk Podcast. So thank you once again. My apologies to Rod Stewart, Sir Rod Stewart. We were supposed to have him on tonight, but apparently we ran out of time. And Rod, I do apologize again. I know this comes up a lot with us, and also to NASA Space Station, the satellite of the space station. We were supposed to have them come on and do a segment on installing an N-scale decoder into an N-scale engine in zero gravity, but we weren't able to hook up that satellite link. So my apologies to those guys. In the meantime, here at Model Railroading Live, tomorrow night is Johnny's Train Talk Show at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's where you guys can mosey on down to Johnny's Train Talk general store there and join in. And then on Saturday, the 20th, we're going to have the Railroad Empires, how we build them, and they will be doing a show as well. And then we're taking the rest of the December off because we got Christmas. So here at Model Railroading Live, we want to wish all our viewers and the community of Model Railroading a very blessed Christmas season, and hopefully a better 2021. So you guys out there, be safe, be well, but most of all, please be blessed. Take care, and we'll see you guys on the radio.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.